Hi everyone, a very good evening to you. Here we are again with our program Real Talk from Woman to Woman. We are giving continuation to the series God Sees. We have been learning about the story of Esther, Mordecai, and all the Jews, how much they suffered injustice in the hand of an evil man, a wicked man. But because they put their trust in the Lord, Esther taught them how to depend on the Lord and be in spirit and take decisions not based upon what they felt, but according to the Spirit. God brought the great enemy of the Jews down, Haman. So everything that he plotted against Mordecai ended up happening to him. Now, we learned that he built a gallows to hang Mordecai, but in the end, who was hanged in those gallows was he himself, okay? And yesterday I was speaking about this because, sometimes when someone does something wrong against us, if we are not in spirit, when something happens against them, when they are, when justice is served, we have an inclination or a tendency to celebrate the defeat or the disgrace of so-called enemies, right? So, but yesterday I was speaking about that because I cannot see like a total victory because Haman was killed. Because in the end, if you think, he has a soul. And all of us that are Christian, people of God, we should not rejoice with the fall of our enemies, those who stand up against us. First of all, we should not consider to have people as our enemies. If there are enemies, it's because they themselves make themselves our enemies, but not because we have something against them, but because they are the ones that create situations that cause such division. Okay, so it's not us who have enemies, but there are people that make themselves our enemies, and we should pray for our enemies, right? Now, we are going to continue here in chapter 9. I'm going to put here on the screen, by the way, if you have missed any previous episode, you can always go to our YouTube channel and you can search for the series God Sees, and then you can see all the episodes we have done about injustice. Okay, let's read today here chapter 9. So now Haman is out of the picture. Now there was a new decree that the king authorized Mordecai to send out. So anyone that would try to attack the Jews, they had the right to defend themselves and kill them. Now, I want you to notice this. The decree was not to finish everyone, okay? The decree was, if ever someone tries to attack you, if anyone tries to hurt you or your family, then you have the right to defend yourself. Because sometimes you may read the story, even today, we are going to give continuation. You may read it and you think, but you see, they took revenge. No, they didn't take revenge. They defended themselves according to the decree that the king signed. Okay, so we don't have the right to go out and revenge on the people that consider themselves our enemies. what we have the right is to defend ourselves. First, at the court of God, okay, before the throne of God. And second, we have the right to protect and safeguard our lives and ourselves, our faith as well. Okay, let's read here. The Jews destroy their tormentors. Now, in the 12th month, that is the month of Adar, on the 13th day, the time came for the king's commandment and his decree to be executed. On the day that the enemies of the Jews had hoped to overpower them, the opposite occurred, in that the Jews themselves overpowered those who hated them. Okay, so evil was determined against them, but on that day their evil was overturned, because when they thought that they were going to annihilate all the Jews, it was themselves, those who considered themselves enemies of Mordecai, the Jews, and Esther, those were the ones that ate from their own cup, you know what I mean? They fell into their own pit. Let's continue. Verse 2. The Jews gathered together in their cities throughout all the provinces of King Ahasuerus to lay hands on those who sought their harm. So you see, again, not kill everyone, but only on those who sought their harm. No one could withstand them, because fear of them fell upon all the people. The fear of the Jews, right, fell upon them. And all the officials of the provinces, the satraps, the governors, and all those doing the king's work, helped the Jews because the fear of Mordecai fell upon them. I want to speak about this, the fear of Mordecai, okay? Because you understood, Mordecai was a simple servant. He was always at the king's gate. Now, he was exalted in the position of a governor or a prime minister, okay? Helping, assisting the king in all the matters. Now, it's common that people have, when they see a person in authority, that they have this respect, this fear towards them. For example, you don't dare to speak or to do anything against your president. You don't dare to do anything against, here in Hong Kong, against our chief executive. You don't dare that. Why? Because you respect the position the person has, okay? You respect the law, so there is a respect. But more important than the fear of people is the fear of God. We that are born of God, people of God, Christians, we don't do what is wrong because we fear the law. We don't do what is wrong because we have the nature of God, right? We fear God. Because I fear and I respect God, then what do? I respect the authorities, okay? So I just wanted to emphasize this part, and if you remember when we were reflecting on the book of 1 Peter, we spoke a lot about this. By the way, if you did not watch, go back to our YouTube channel and search the playlist 1 Peter, and you will see we spoke a lot about the fear of God, respecting authorities, respecting respecting the government. So we spoke all about this. So the difference between the people then, okay, and us, people of God, Christians, is that we don't just fear the authority and the governing authorities, but above them all we fear God, and that's why we submit ourselves to the authorities that was given by God. Okay, so let's continue here, verse 4. For Mordecai was great in the king's palace, and his fame spread throughout all the provinces. For this man Mordecai became increasingly prominent. Thus the Jews defeated all their enemies in the stroke of the sword, with slaughter and destruction, and did what they pleased with those who hated them. And in Shushan, the citadel, the Jews killed and destroyed 500 men. Also Parshandatha, Dalphon, I don't know if that's how you pronounce, Aspada, Poratha, Adalia, Aridatha, Pamashta, Arizai, Aridai, and Vajezatha. I don't know these names. Anyway, the names are not important. And look here. The 10 sons of Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the enemy of the Jews, they killed. Remember what we spoke yesterday, that the decision of Haman, also influenced by his wife and his friends, okay, had a very great consequence. In one day they became homeless, and now you see here they even lost their life. Do you get it? So what I want us to leave today, this program, thinking about, one of the things I want you to leave thinking about is this: your decisions, your everything you do in life can indeed influence and have a strong impact on your family and on your children. So the way we live, we can either bless them, leave them a blessing, or the way we live, we can leave for them destruction, disgrace. We can leave for them misery, poverty, even to the point that they lose their own lives. So we have this responsibility, massive responsibility, of doing what is right to please God, and understanding that every action we take, there is a consequence. And this not only for us, as well as for our family members. Okay? So they did not lay hand on the plunder. We will speak about this later. On that day, the number of those who were killed in Shushan, the citadel, was brought to the king. And the king said to Queen Esther, "The Jews have killed and destroyed 500 men in Shushan, the citadel, and the 10 sons of Haman. What have they done in the rest of the king's province? Now, what is your petition? It shall be granted to you. Or what is your further request? It shall be done." Then Esther said, "If it pleases the king, let it be granted to the Jews who are in Shushan to do again tomorrow according to today's decree, and let Haman's 10 sons be hanged on the gallows." So the king commanded this to be done. The decree was issued in Shushan, and they hanged Haman's sons. And the Jews who were in Shushan gathered together again to the 14th day of the month of Adar, and killed 300 men at Shushan, but they did not lay hand on their plunder. Again, we talk about this later. The remainder of the Jews in the king's provinces gathered together and protected their lives, had rest from their enemies. Again, I want you to focus here. The remainder of the Jews in the king's province gathered together and protected their lives, not revenge their life. Protected. Okay? Had rest from the enemies and killed 75,000 of their enemies. But they did not lay hand on their plunder. This was the 13th day of the month of Adar, and on the 14th of the month they rested and made it a day of feasting and gladness. Okay, now I'm gonna speak a little bit more about this, protected their lives, because if we read this, because the words that were used by the king, or whatever you want, you can do it. It pleased them to kill and they killed. No, it's not that way. Okay, I'm going to emphasize this again, because remember, some people, they when they have enemies, they like to take revenge, and sometimes they take hold of things in the Bible loose, and they don't understand the spirit behind. So I want you to understand the spirit behind. Again, all that they did, all the killing, the 75,000 men of their enemies that were killed, was not as a revenge, was to protect their lives. I have to emphasize this again. And another thing here, but they did not lay a hand on their plunder. Okay, before we go to the plunder, that's what I wanted to speak. So you see, in the beginning, you can see that they killed 500 men. Okay, you kill 500 men that go against you in one day, but there is another 75,000 that are alive, that they want to destroy and annihilate the Jews. If that decision at that time was not done, these people, okay, would come back, or maybe not the 75,000, because minus 500, right? They would come back and they would still, and on another time, they would still gather together and they would plot against the Jews again. I don't know if you remember when the children of Israel, they left Egypt. God gave a commandment for them to go in and conquer the land, and they told them to kill them all, to kill the children, to kill the animals, to kill all. And some of the people, okay, some of the tribes, they conquered the land and they did not want to finish the job. They didn't want to have the work of fighting for their lives, protecting their life, and they spared the people. In the end, what happened? They end up making alliances, covenants with these people, and they end up corrupting themselves. So here you can see that usually if you don't finish the job, okay, properly, what is going to happen? The history will repeat itself. And maybe you are a person that you have been in the church working, fighting for your life, and you receive a small blessing, and you become all enthusiastic and happy, praise God, about a little breakthrough. But you don't go to the end and finish the job, meaning, for example, you are fighting for your children, or for your husband, or for your wife, if you are a man watching us. You're fighting for your family members. And you become happy, and you become kind of even complacent in your faith just because they are attending the church. Or because, like I hear many times, you hear them saying, I am a tither. But listen, as long as your family members are not born of God, even if they are in the church, there is a great chance of them abandoning the church, abandoning the faith, and go back and do the wrong thing. Sometimes even going to the church, but not really obeying the word of God. And there you are thinking that, oh, they are in the church, you become happy. It's not enough. Mom, wife, you who are fighting for your parents, you who are fighting for a loved one, is not enough for them to go to the church. They must die, not physically, but their old habits, their old life, their old selves needs to be buried, needs to die. They need to be born of God. Otherwise, it's just a matter of time for them to go back to their old lives and do what is wrong, disappointing you, and above all, disappointing God. So don't think like this. It's not about this chapter, in yesterday's chapter that we were reading, is not about revenge. Is all about going until the end, to finish the job, to reach the end of the line. You know what I mean? So let's not get complacent and think, my family comes to the church, but they are in the church, one foot in the church, Sunday morning in the church. But Monday to Saturday, they have a foot in the world. They live in the world. They still don't understand the word of God. Okay? So the story of Esther and Mordecai and all the Jews and these 75,000 men that they killed represent the death of the old life of your family member, the old self, so that the new self, God, generated by God, can come to life. Okay? And then I want to focus as well in this part here, but they did not lay hand on their plunder. You see that how many times they said this? It was mentioned here, maybe 3-4 times, I don't remember. 3 or 4 times mentions this, because they had right, okay? It was written on the decree that they could kill them and take their plunder. But you see, here shows that they didn't have interest in their belongings. They didn't have interest in revenging themselves. All that they wanted was to defend themselves. They didn't want to take advantage and even have a possession that only God knows how these people that were killed, how did they get this plunder? Maybe through a lot of injustice. And here leaves us a lesson as well, that we are not people that take advantage of injustices of other people to benefit ourselves. You know what I mean? So what they had was good enough for them. Like Esther said, oh, if I was sold as a slave, and if my people were sold as a slave, I'll not come here and bring this case before you. But no, what these enemy sold us to finish us, to annihilate us. So the ambition was never a possession, a material possession. Because imagine killing 75,000 people. Look how rich they would have become, the Jews. Think with me. But they forsook this way of prospering, and they thought, I can only get prosperity comes from the Lord alone, doesn't come through injustice. So I don't know how these people got all these possessions. So we are not going to get it, because we don't want to get our hands dirty with the injustice of another man. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. But this closes the chapter for today, or not the chapter, but it closes the story for today. Tomorrow we come back with the Feast of Purim, which is very beautiful. We are going to speak about that tomorrow, okay? That's all we have time for today, reminding you that later on you can watch the Love Therapy online in our private group. Make sure you are connected to the private group to watch our Love Therapy. Let's bulletproof our relationship with our partner, just as we bulletproof our relationship with God. Okay? And reminding you as well that straight after the Love Therapy, we are going to have our journey to the altar of justice in our campaign of faith. Okay? Where we are going to have our prayer of agreement at 10 p.m. both here on Facebook, in fact on the private group of the church, as well as on the uckg.hk website, our website, and as well on YouTube. Okay, that's all we have time for today, and we'll see you again tomorrow at the same time. May God bless you. Bye-bye now. Has this program been of help for you? Feel free to share with someone who also will benefit from watching it. You feel free to press the share button, and if you want, you can like it and leave your comments below. God bless.